we've got some amazing gentlemen to introduce you to. It's a well-rounded panel to talk about different aspects of the EV world. So first of all is my good friend Dirk Fuchs. He's he's in huge global demand right now as an expert in EV technology through his company Electric Mobility Consultant. We have Casey Hamilton. What's up, Casey? After many years in the collision repair industry, in 2021, Casey joined Rivian and is building their certified collision repair networks, right? And then Stephen Bozer rounds out our panel from the shop's perspective. Steve is one of our amazing elite mastermind members, and his shop, Fix Auto Tempe, has a reputation as one of our country's finest EV repair specialists. So let's give these gentlemen a big welcome to our first ever panel.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Oh. I love it. I love it. So first question. So we're going to look at these guys. They're
I know.
Yeah.
It's like we started a GQ magazine or something here. Look at these guys. I'm feeling intimidated.
So the first question I want to ask you guys is we're just gonna go around the room real fast here, starting with Steve. Okay. Are EVs here to stay, right? And if so, when will they represent maybe a majority of a typical body shop's work, if ever, right? Tell me about what the future holds for us in terms of EV.
Sure, I'm happy to share my opinion on it, as it might be. I definitely, in my opinion, they're definitely here to stay. I've been driving one for 7-8 years now. ICE vehicles also have their place. I think they're both going to have their place in the market. They each have their own advantages, but you see more and more of electric vehicles on the road. You also see where they have problems sometimes that they're still working out in really cold places. But all in all, they're a fantastic driving experience, and I definitely think they're here to stay. They're occupying more and more of the market. And if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say maybe like 10, 11 years, they'll be passing ICE vehicles for the majority of the cars that are on the road, which means then they would be the majority of work that's available to body shops.
Yeah, interesting. Dirk, what's your opinion on this?
My opinion, Hey, my opinion is quite similar. I think the electric vehicle technology overall is much more advanced as an ICE engine, as we all know from the advantage standpoint. I would not say it is a battery electric vehicle in the future. It could be maybe an hydrogen, but everything is based on an electric motor. So where this is going is a good question, and I think the development in different directions make better battery technology, bring completely new other aspects to the table are really strong. So at the end, an electric motor will drive the vehicle. What brings the energy? That's a different question.
Great. I like that perspective. Casey, what about you, buddy?
Exactly the same. How about that? Is that an easy enough one?
We have a consensus.
Oh my God.
I like it. Wow. This panel's going great. We better shut it down now.
Yeah, let's end it there. Certainly here to stay. I think majority is a strong word. The way I like to look at it is essentially a product for every use case, right? As an EV owner and an ICE owner, there's obviously things that they both excel at. So I think it's, where it goes in terms of majority is probably anyone's guess. I think you've got some technology that doesn't exist yet that needs to come along to really start looking at a majority. But in terms of a user experience, I often kind of use the analogy of like a flip phone versus an iPhone, right? It's just a completely different product, at least the EVs that we're driving around these days. It's proximity unlocking and not having to go to the gas station and things like that works really well for your kind of day-to-day, taking the kids to karate practice and all those sorts of things that need to happen. But, if you got to load up a trailer full of steers here in Dallas and take it down to take it across the state, that's probably not the best product for you. So,
I would be willing to watch that, though. That would be something fun to watch. Somebody, an EV hauling cattle.
You get there fast, but
that's it. I love it.
Charging, so
that's pretty cool. Maybe let's take a look at this one here. Dirk, I'd ask this of you maybe. Infrastructure, it's far from being prepared at the present state. So could you give an example of some of the problems that are out there and maybe even some of the things that from a governmental standpoint that you've been asked to help solve?
Or maybe what you're doing right now. Dirk
Yeah.
almost couldn't be here.
Yeah. By
Yeah,
the
right.
way,
Yeah.
can we get a snapshot of where you are and what you're doing right now? I mean, this is worth it.
Okay, I'm right now in Alaska, in Anchorage. I flew last night here into Anchorage. I will I will jump on a charter plane in an hour and fly to Dutch Harbor. And in Dutch Harbor is a container ship, a big vessel loaded with high voltage storage battery containers, so energy storage containers. But by the way, we have much more problems within this country than electric vehicles. So that means those storage containers, for example, built for big solar parks, solar farms, store the energy. And on that container, yeah, 3 of them went on fire. 9 surrounding containers got directly exposed from that fire. So one storage containers, when I look over to Casey, that equals possibly 150 of his Rivian battery packs in one of those containers. So then we deal now with 12 containers that have to be dismantled. Then that ship is not allowed to enter any harbor in the US, Canada, or Mexico. So we have to clean this up. Dismantling the battery packs, make everything safe, take the battery cells out, package them up in drums. It's labor work. So I hope I lose a few kilograms after that job. So we'll be a week on the boat.
How about that? International
Ryan,
man of mystery.
Yeah, Ryan wanted you to come alive, hanging from a rope from a helicopter.
Yeah, there's going to be a zip line. There's going to be flames in the
yeah.
background, explosions. It was going to be really cool.
I love it.
Yeah,
Mission Impossible.
Dirk has told me some amazing stories of, EVs, catching on fire in the middle of a tunnel, under a mountain. And it's just all these things that we don't think about. And I'm glad we've got people like Dirk to keep us safe. He is a superhero. So Casey, tell us some of your challenges. You're in charge of getting body shops repairing these things safely and correctly. What kind of challenges and opportunities are there for body shops, and how do you find suitable ones to repair Rivian vehicles?
Yeah, definitely a lot of opportunity. First off, and I think given the car park that we've got and the models that we've got, our challenges are probably greater at Rivian than they would kind of be traditionally, just because of the size of our delivery vans. That's something that nobody thinks about. Mainly the designers of those vans, right? The vans are actually 9'6" tall. So if anybody's familiar with the standard height of the paint booth is 9-foot doors. So we've been really challenged to identify folks that have got those taller paint booths, have the capacity to work on the vans. I would say probably the next thing that's been a challenge for us is just the size of our car park. Right, we're small. I think as of the end of last year, 75, 80,000 cars on the road, something like that. It'll it's compound interest.
Casey,
I'm sure next year the production goal will basically double what
I think half of them are right here in my neighborhood.
Yeah,
yeah, I see them everywhere.
Me too. But it becomes challenging when you if you're talking major metro areas. It's great, right? Because you've got the volume to supplement that as a collision owner. You don't necessarily have to put all that money into tooling for that particular model. So I guess to kind of roundabout answer your other question there, Dave, really the approach that we've taken is making it approachable for folks that probably already have the required tooling. We've taken a real kind of unique approach in terms of the required tooling in the program. We whenever possible look at it from a specification based requirement instead of a specific manufacturer of that particular tool. That way we can say, hey, we need a a flow form rivet gun. It's got to have this throw capacity and it's got to have this particular pressure. But beyond that, I don't care if it's an Express or if it's a Pro Spot or whatever one you want to use, because we know that's gonna put that rivet in that.
Do you find that most of your certified shops that you put on are already certified in another EV make?
Typically, so on the passenger side, yes, but we have been we've kind of been driving that certification into the what I would call traditional fleet shops. You've got folks out there that are used to working on medium duty, heavy duty, and now they've got this thing that's kind of in between. It's basically a medium duty size, but you've got all the ADAS suite and kind of the construction techniques that you would on a passenger vehicle. So we've had quite a few folks that have kind of taken, we call it the field of dreams conversation, right? If you build the shop, the vans will come, but really taking the leap into that, next level of collision repair where you're dealing with rivet bonding and kind of the things that you wouldn't typically see in a traditional fleet shop.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Casey.
I got a question for Steven, actually. You've always kind of been known as an early adopter of Tesla repairs. What are some of the benefits that you've seen out there compared to, conventional ICE vehicles?
Yeah, it's really attracted, or at least we've leveraged it to attract a really young, vibrant workforce.
Oh, cool. There's a cool angle.
Yeah, they love the technology. They love, I mean, if you watch sci-fi movies for the last 10 years, a lot of times what they're driving around is vehicles that look like Rivians and Teslas in the movies. And anything from the big screens to the fast acceleration and the silent movement. Young people, even right down to 2 and 3 year old kids right now, they're completely fascinated by this technology. And so it's been great for us because we've been able to get them engaged and say, hey, you want to be a part of this adventure? We're gonna be a badass shop and fix these cars and put smiles on people's faces. And they're like, absolutely, I want to be a part of that. It's helped us have great retention. And then also you have a niche, you have an expertise in a particular type of vehicle that not everybody has. And so people come, they find you, and once you have them, if you deliver a great service, they stay with you. So you'll have their friends, their family, themselves, if they happen to get into another accident. And it gives you pricing power as well because you have that expertise that not the entire rest of the market has.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That's good. And I think I've heard you say that they're pretty profitable too.
They are profitable. Yeah. You have a whole logistics extra structure that emerges around it. So you have to be prepared for that. But yeah, because you can command greater labor rates and, really get your technicians trained up and get them to be experts in what they're doing. You can command a higher price for the service that you offer, and it's profitable.
Yeah.
It's
So
fun.
starting with Casey, thank you, Steve. So starting with Casey, we've all heard how deadly EVs are, right? We know that they're dangerous. Have you guys actually heard of injuries or deaths occurring in body shops? And what do shops need to do to protect their people or to feel like it's safe to repair EVs?
It's a little bit of a red herring, I feel like sometimes, because they get a lot of press. I don't know, Dirk will probably disagree with me here. I don't know that for just generally speaking, that EVs are really that more dangerous than a traditional ICE vehicle, right? You've got things that you need to be concerned about on one and not on the other, and vice versa. Really, I think what it amounts to, and I've not personally heard other than kind of roundabout rumors that have happened about PDR technicians that we're poking around with a stick in the wrong place and things. Yeah, it's always those PDR guys. But I mean, there's probably some truth to that, right? Because you're not typically pulling procedures in that scenario like you would if you're talking about a major collision. You're kind of thinking this is a one and done, quick, punch that dent out sort of thing. But I think what it amounts to is we've all got to do a better job just following the procedures and understanding the vehicle. Because the vehicles are actually very, very safe. There's a lot of safety systems built in, and they'll shut themselves down. And if you approach things from the correct standpoint, I would say they're probably safer. But if you don't approach things from the correct standpoint, that's when you start to get yourself into trouble with not using the correct tools. Following the correct process in terms of de-energizing and things like that. So,
Dirk, what do you think, buddy?
No, I'm absolutely with Casey. I'm not disagreeing at all. It's a different kind of repair. What I see, I do a lot of now forensic work for a few manufacturers. So when they really have an event, then they want to know why. So then they deploy me, ask me, Dirk, can you check this out? So what I see really often, and this is possibly 80% of the problems we have, is coolant. So the vehicle is, for example, involved in an accident. Of course, you have high G-forces, you have an impact, you have maybe a concussive damage to the battery pack, coolant lines break, or coolant water is dripping into the battery pack. I had a case, what was not collision relevant, but I was super interesting. Then a vehicle came to the repair shop with a major battery fault code. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening, they lift the car up, remove the plastic under to look at it, said, oh yeah, let's go home. Yeah, 4 a.m. in the morning, the shop was gone.
Woo!
So the point here is, what we have to learn is, you can't bring an electric vehicle with a major battery fault code in your shop and let's say, oh, check it out tomorrow. Those times have to be over. We have to make a proper diagnostic, develop those knowledge and skills to perform this diagnostic strategies and learn about it. And then you're not sure, then isolate the vehicle and not leave it in your shop. That's something what I would not do. So the process is what we have to develop. The knowledge, what we have to gain, is all like more and more experience. This is, and Casey said it, this, when something like this occurs, it's everywhere in the news. So, you know, how many combustion vehicles on the same time burn down. So I don't want to go here in statistics, but it has, of course, a much stronger impact when something happened. And we all know high voltage batteries, they burn much harder. They are not stoppable when they burn. And then you're getting a huge problem. And for that, we have to be prepared. And there is multiple possibilities to protect your shop, putting warning systems in, like CO monitoring systems and other things. So there is a lot to learn and a lot what we can do to know, is there a problem, yes or no?
Yeah, thank you, Dirk.
I think I'd add to that. It's a little bit of, we've been getting away with it, and the price to pay is not so high, or it used to be not so high. But we've all walked into that pool of gas or that pool of oil on the floor in the morning after a new car comes in.
Yep.
As long as there wasn't an open flame, it wasn't that big a deal. But
got it. Okay, so starting with Steve, we've only got 3 minutes left, so a minute each, right? What advice do you have for a body shop interested in getting into EV repairs?
My advice would be to talk to somebody who's been doing it for a while, so that they can kind of share with you what are the hidden costs, just so that you're aware of those. There are benefits, there are also costs as well. Storing the parts for a long time, big logistics issues that you might have to deal with, and then, you know, somebody like me, I'm happy to share my experience with anybody who's interested.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Awesome.
All right, Casey.
My biggest advice would be to take a look at all of the offerings from all the manufacturers.
Okay.
See where the tooling lines up. Make sure that you're not doubling up on tools. If you're buying a battery table, make sure it works for as many manufacturers as possible, so that you're not having a big CapEx expense on large pieces of equipment laying around that you're not going to be using.
Great, good advice. Dirk.
Yeah. Dave, I'm of course the education guy, so education, try to learn as much you can. Try, when you go on a collision network like on Rivian, try to get on their training program, learn as much as possible. Yeah, you have to be the collision, the EV collision repair is a different animal, and you have to be prepared of that, not only from a tooling perspective, also from a knowledge perspective.
Yep. Where can one quick question, since we got a minute left, where can people go to find information on how to be safe around an EV coming into their shop? Where do we find that information?
All of our position statements are posted on OEM One Stop, so that's probably the quickest, easiest way for us.
Nice.
And yeah, since I was a former ICAR employee, so ICAR is of course a great source. RTS, my former team, they're doing a great job bundling informations and put it on the website. So RTS from ICAR, great source to find information, and of course training.
Yeah.
Bring us home, Steve.
Steve.
I think they nailed it. I mean, once you're in a program, you have access to the repair procedures, and they'll have like safety training. Tesla certainly has that. Fortunately, you have to already be in the program to have access to it. But if OEM One Stop and RTS and ICAR, those are available to everybody. So,
boom.
Advantage.
That was awesome. First panel, it was amazing.
We did
Thank
it,
you, gentlemen. Woo!
Woo!
All right. Thank you
you,
guys.
guys.
Thanks, guys.